Humans of the cardboard, it is time to talk about yet another potential structure deck down the line that we will be getting to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! This one is going to be specifically talking about a Fire King structure deck. And a couple days ago, we talked about what it would be like for the Atlanteans to get a structure deck. And if you don't know, Structure Deck R is a series in the OCG where they've gone back and they've given retrained structure decks of old classic structure decks in order, like exact chronological order, to just allow them to be able to play in the modern game. As of recent, the most recent one was Dark World there, which we just got in the TCG last December, I believe. And so now we look at the next couple that are coming after that. So here's Devil's Gate over here. Then you have Dragonic Legion, Roar of the Sea Emperor, and Onslaught of the Fire Kings. Dragonic Legion is a weird one. I'm not even sure they'll go through with making this one. It's just kind of like a Chaos Dragon, you know what I mean? Like structure deck. It would just be Dragon Link support most likely. I don't know if they'll actually go through with that one, but whatever, because it doesn't even feel like that thematic. It's just kind of generic light and dark support. Whatever. So we'll see what happens with that. Then we see Roar of the Sea Emperor. That's Atlanteans. We talked about that a couple days ago. Go watch that video if you're interested to hear my thoughts and just the overall setup on them. And then we get to Onslaught of the Fire Kings, which is a really interesting one as well. It's a deck that I hear people mention here and there whenever I talk about archetypes that need support really badly. A lot of times I don't mention them because they're kind of in line for Structure Deck R. So I was like, why even mention them when, like, in the next 2 to 3 years they're like almost guaranteed to get a structure deck, most likely. So yeah, that's where we're at. Today we're going to talk about Fire Kings, what they have access to already, and that Konami can kind of build around to try and round this archetype out and make it, you know, relevant for modern day Yu-Gi-Oh!, as well as some generic cards, and then, you know, what I think would be a good path to go to try and give this deck what it needs. So we got to start off with what cards the deck already has access to. I honestly read through all the Fire King cards, and I was like, honestly, like, all of these are, like, playable cards. They just don't do enough right now. They definitely need a boost to their engine for sure. But let's start off with the small monsters. First thing we have here is Avatar Arvata. This card is just a monster negate by destroying one other fire monster in hand or on field. I love that it can be either. So that's really good. Just a normal summon that's a monster negate is pretty interesting. And then if this card's destroyed, they all have like destruction floats, right? And they destroy each other, all that stuff. You can target a fire, beast warrior, beast, or wing beast engrave and special summon it, but it has its effects negated and it's destroyed during the end phase. So yeah, you get a monster back. Yes, it's destroyed on the end phase, but it's probably something that floats anyway, so it'll just float again when it's destroyed on end phase. Regardless, pretty decent card. I mean, ideally, we'll be able to end on this pretty easily if everything works out correctly. From there, we move to Fire King Avatar Barong. So he says if any Fire King monster you control is destroyed by card effect, you can special him from the hand. Okay. And then during the next standby phase after this card has been destroyed by card effect, you can add a Fire King card from deck to hand. Just any card. That's pretty cool as well. Not a bad card, just an okay extender plus a decent floater. It's slow, but it does just get like literally anything in the archetype. So obviously I would assume that some of these new cards will give us some really potent targets for this search. I think it's a decent card. Also, one more thing, 200 defense, 200 defense. That'll come up later. Next up we have Fire King Avatar Yaksha. Same extension effect. If a face-up Fire King you control is destroyed, special this card from the hand. And then if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can destroy a card in your hand or that you control. So it lets you pop your own stuff. That could let you trigger something important later on. So that's actually pretty good as well. Not too shabby. Again, 200 defense. That also comes up. Fire King Avatar Garunix, another extender. If a Fire King monster is destroyed by card effect, special summon this card from the hand. And then if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, battle, or card effect, special summon a Fire King Avatar monster from your deck. So it floats on that way as well, but this one does need, this float effect needs your opponent to destroy it. I guess you could crash it, to get a special summon, but you know, it is still an extender. It is level 3, so it's a different level, which could come up. But this one, to me, is the most underwhelming card so far. From there, we move to Kirin. If a face-up Fire King monster is destroyed, special summon this card from the hand. They all do that. So, like, honestly, like, one card starter that, like, places and destroys something would be really nice. And then if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, send a fire monster from deck to grave. That's any fire, by the way. That's a foolish for any fire monster in the whole game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Other than that, he's an awkward level. He is still 200 defense, though, so that could come up. But yeah, fine. And then we have the boss monster, High Avatar Garunix. During the next standby phase, after this card has been destroyed by card effect, you can special summon it from the graveyard, and when you do, destroy all other monsters on the field. If you destroy your own stuff, they're probably all floating, so not a big deal. So that's cool. And when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Fire King just straight from the deck. So a lot of floating going on, a lot of just you want to be, if you're going to get destroyed, you want to be destroyed by battle. I don't love that some of them have to be destroyed by card effect and it's not just destroyed generically. That does open up the possibility for certain decks to be able to just run you over in the battle phase without giving you triggers for floats and stuff, but for the most part, we're pretty destruction floaty, and that's pretty good overall. So Garunix, not a bad boss monster. I could still see this being a part of the deck where it's a deck that kind of wants to slow the game down, kind of wants to get into a grind game, and then you just try to get to scenarios where you're destroying your own Garunix every turn, he's coming back every standby phase, and wiping the board again. Like, wipe the board, wipe the board, wipe the board, making it very tough for your opponent to maintain, advantage on the field. At least that would be ideal. Although I do still think at the end of the day, he's probably not good enough to be the focal point, like the main thing. We still probably need a new addition to the deck as far as either a boss monster or a win condition on top of Garunix. He can be a really useful tool, but he can't be the only tool for winning games, right? From there, move to the spells, Circle of Fire Kings. This card's really good. It's a quick play that targets a fire monster you control and engrave. You destroy the one on the field, and then you special summon the one from grave. That's really good because all the monsters destroyed are floaters, so this is like trading a 1-for-1. Well, actually, technically, it's like a 2-for-2. But still, it's triggering stuff. It's getting you access to other stuff. It's a quick play, so it can have some utility there. Maybe if we get some new Fire Kings that, like, when they're destroyed, immediately have, like, a really good interruption effect. That makes this even flexible going second or first, being just, like, an awesome extra interruption card. And it has Fire King in the name, so it could be searchable. Next up, Fire King Island. This is actually a pretty good field spell. If this face-up card in the field spell zone is sent to grave or banished, destroy all monsters you control. That sounds really bad, but again, like, every single monster we play will float when destroyed, so it's not the worst thing in the world. There could be ways where it punishes you and it's annoying, but there's also a lot of ways where it still works out. And then it has 2 effects, but you can only use one of them per turn. You can't use both. During your main phase, destroy a monster in hand or you control, and then add a Fire King monster from deck to hand. That's so good. It's just Dragonic Diagram, but it also gets to pop something. Like, it trades a card in hand for a card from deck, but then that card you traded from hand is still going to float from there. That's really, really solid. And then second effect, that you control no monsters, you can specially Fire Wing Beast from the hand. This at least gives you a little extra speed to get something like Garunix out of the hand at certain points, which is fine, but usually you're probably just using that search effect, I would imagine. So pretty good field spell. It's actually pretty nice for consistency. We will take that. And the last archetypal spell here is Onslaught. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, special summon a Fire Beast, Warrior, or Wing Beast from the deck. Its effects are negated and it is destroyed during the end phase. Not a bad card, but it's a card that, like, I'm not sure you want to main, because your opponent has to have a monster and you have to have none, so going first, it is essentially dead, and I don't like that. So maybe it's a card you side just to make your engine better going second into matchups, but I don't see you maining it. Still not a terrible card, though. Then we move into some generic stuff. Not sure all of these will come up, but these are more contingent on, depending on how Konami goes about their support for this archetype, some of these cards could end up seeing some interesting play. Wolfbark, depending on what they do. If they have a way to just, like, cheat this guy out for free, it's during a combo, then maybe he's just, like, a really good extender card. We'll see. Blaster, Dragon Ruler of Infernos. He's on the ban list, but again, same thing as the Volcanic video I did a little bit ago as well. If they were to take another Dragon Ruler off the ban list, aside from Tempest, Blaster would be the first one to go. So, could be a nice fire card. He does pop cards, so you could pop your own stuff, potentially. Not too shabby. Gokr, the Pyre of Malice, and Bonfire Colossus are both interesting because they, like, just summon themselves to the field if you control a fire monster, and then when you do, you pop a fire monster you control. So, It gives you a higher level, higher statted extender, but then like pops your Fire Kings to then trigger them to get more floating, right? Goka seems better because it only pops 1. Bonfire needing to pop 2 may just be a little bit too much, but still interesting cards. Spirit of Flames, if the deck just ends up needing generic fire extenders, he banishes a fire from grave to plop out on the field. Could be something. Tenki. Tenki is a big one. As you saw from the main monsters, I think 3 of those main deck monsters were just all fire beast warriors. So all 3 of those searchable off of Tenki. Plus he sticks in the main monster zone, so it could be a card we could destroy to do some stuff later on, depending on what kind of support cards we get. Plus we get a little buff off it too. So small stuff there, but a big consistency card potentially. Rekindling. Rekindling, is it the last one? Oh no, we have some extra deck. Rekindling is crazy. So if you don't know about Rekindling, it special summons as many fire monsters with exactly 200 defense from grave, but banish them during the end phase. That doesn't matter, but as you saw, 4 of the 5 main decks smaller monsters all had exactly 200 defense. So even though this card I think was originally designed for what? Lavals or Flamvels, whichever one it is. This archetype actually makes pretty damn good use of it. So this could be an insane extender for the deck. And then we finished with a couple of extra monsters. Not a ton. Eagle's interesting because, 1, we already play Tenki, and 2, he takes any 2 Beast Warriors and he can return a Fire Formation spell or trap to hand to send a Fire Fist monster from deck to grave. So you could just go ahead and send Buffalo, and I think Buffalo just reborns itself for free while this guy's on the field. So you would get to reset the Tenki, so it's follow-up for next turn, and send another level 4 Beast Warrior extender. That could be something, again, I don't know if you want to play the brick, but kind of just, that could be something that's interesting. And then Hita, again, fire deck. If you're going to play a fire deck, you might as well play Hita in case there are relevant fire monsters in the middle of that metagame, but we'll see. So all in all, that's where we're at. Those are the cards that I think are most relevant for this archetype. I think it's a pretty interesting one. Now, we've seen that archetypes that are a little bit too reliant on destruction can definitely struggle at times. Just because as we progress through Yu-Gi-Oh!, we learn that the best forms of removal are banishing, shuffling back into deck, right, and non-targeting stuff. And so as Konami tries to make archetypes better and better, fundamentally we end up with more archetypes that just have access to those types of removal. That being said, if we have enough just power to the engine and we don't have to just fully rely on our opponent triggering our stuff, then we could trigger it enough ourselves, our engine could just handle the rest from there. And like sometimes Unchained, like for a while Unchained was still a really good just rogue deck option, even though there were always decks that just had non-destruction removal because their engine was just good enough. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for here. I would just like to see some really good speed options to get some stuff set up a little bit quick, consistently. I mean, we have the Tenki, so, you know, that'd be cool. It does feel like none of our main deck monsters are starter cards, like, at all. So I would love to see, like, an actual normal summon, and, you know, whatever. Make it a tour guide. Summon another Fire King straight from deck, then destroy a card, on field or in hand. Something like that. So you could summon out Arvata, so he's got a negate, and then you pop another one in hand, so that's going to trigger, and get things going. Like, something like that. They need some stuff. I'd love a spell that, like is kind of like E-Telly, but then pops a card, like special summon a Fire King monster from deck and then destroy one fire monster on field or in the hand. That could work. Technically it's like a 2 for 2 for the most part, but it's consistency, it's extendability, it's stuff like that. It could lock you into fire monsters from there, but that would be really, really cool. So I like the archetype. It has some really cool artwork, has some really cool effects. It seems a little too destruction based, but if they make the new engine cards good enough, that can kind of help cover up the fact that the deck seems very destruction reliant. But we'll obviously see. Like I said as well, a new boss monster for Garunix, for High Garunix, would be really nice as well. I don't think this card's bad. I think it could still see play in the deck, but it's not good enough to be your full-on win condition. It's a cool tool. Got to have something else. So whether they go an extra deck route, we have enough level 4s. Maybe there's a rank 4 way you can go about it, although we could still use generic ones. If we wanted, there's rank 4 potential. There's not as much synchro potential unless they go hard into like a tuner system, but could be fusion. I don't know. Could be link. I'm trying to think. Those seem to make the most sense in how the archetype's already designed, but we'll have to wait and see. But I do think there's potential here, more so on a rogue level. I really doubt that there's... And like, I think if the Atlantean structure deck is really strong, that could legit be like a meta threat. Even if the support for this structure deck is really, really good, I still think rogue is definitely on the table, but meta relevant, I'm not so sure about that. But still cool nonetheless if you're a fan of this deck, like I am. I hope that decks, honestly, my favorite decks, when they get support, I don't want them to be meta. I want them to be rogue, because then I'm not going to be playing mirror matches. When everybody plays a deck, it makes it less interesting and fun. Whatever. So yeah, really, really cool. I want to know your guys' thoughts down below. If you are a fan of Fire Kings, or you're just interested in this structure deck because, I don't know, it's a deck that you've always thought were cool, but you never really wanted to play them because they were never very good. Let me know your thoughts down below on what you want to see, what your kind of guesses are. If there's anything I missed that might be a relevant card that could come up for them, also throw that down below. But I'm out of here for today. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace.